lock and load. Welcome to our physics final project video. For our final project, it was a boomerang. In this video, we learn about the history of boomerangs, the math of them, and how we model our own 3D printed boomerang. To begin with, how did these come to be and where were they discovered? Normally, people tend to think that boomerangs are just only common in Australia and they were invented just in Australia. However, earliest signs of boomerangs have been located in Europe, near where the Gauls were settled at, in America, Native American tribes near California, Arizona, and then in King Tut's tomb, there was boomerang sticks. So it's not just in Australia. So what were the boomerangs used for back in those ancient times? So boomerangs were not just for sports. They're for hunting, digging, foraging, all these kind of things that you really needed back in those ancient times. The boomerangs used to simulate a hawk's shadow of a bird so they could take off and the hunters would be able to pick them off with these boomerangs. The hunter-gatherers can throw these boomerangs directly at their prey or somehow make it ricochet off the ground and bounce right into their food. To create the ancient boomerangs, it would take sometimes weeks or months to finally get the shape of their boomerangs down. Then after that, they would make some intricate designs on their boomerang symbolizing their journey in life or achievements, and then they would trade their boomerangs. Boomerangs in Australia were a pretty interesting things to settlers coming in from Europe or from all these other different nations. And seeing a boomerang for the first time, the settlers or colonists would trade anything they want for these boomerangs. It's such an interesting thing to see compared to back home where they didn't have boomerangs. So these boomerangs, with their expert craftsmanship, their decorations, they were valued at a really high price. Which leads me to our next portion of the project, 3D printing. For creating our boomerang, we use the program Blender to custom make our own boomerangs. So I have a lot of experience with working in Blender. However, the experience I have is mostly towards 3D animations and not really 3D modeling. It seems pretty easy because it's just a parabola and with a curve at the end. So there's nothing too complicated about it, is what I initially thought. However, boomerangs are a lot more complicated than just having the curve at the end. Each of these tails, they're kind of a little inverted. So right here, we have an airfoil going this way, but on the other side, it should have the same thing, but on the forward-facing side. This boomerang, our first one, just has it all on the back. So that's the critical mistake we made. So after a lot of YouTube tutorials, looking up a lot of stuff on Google, how to model, how to make better curves in Blender, we finally got these boomerangs. They're literally a little rough around the edges because of how they came printed out, but overall their flight path is pretty good.
So Dante is going to put forward thrust on the boomerang by stepping forward when he throws, and when he throws, he is going to pull back and flick his wrist along with his fingers to make the boomerang spin really fast. The boomerang is what gives the flick is what gives the boomerang gyroscopic precession. Boomerangs and why they work so well. Why they work so well is because when you throw them, you need to give them a little spin. And that spin helps the wings generate thrust. Along with the forward thrust provided by your arm, you add those two forces together and you get a total force pointing this way along the boomerang. and you add up all the moments of his total trajectory with that force, it turns into a circle, and that's why it returns back to you. Boomerangs. Boomerang. Math in motion. Now here I'm going to be explaining why and how the boomerang spins in a circle and comes back to you. So when you take a freeze frame from a boomerang right before you throw it, or right after you throw it, it looks like this. So the velocity is pointing this way, and both wings are spinning in around these directions. And if you look into like a smaller viewpoint, you see that on each wing, it has its own angular momentum because of the inertia plus the angular velocity. And while at the same time it's happening, it's also being carried forward by the initial velocity by the arms when you throw it straight forward. So the direction of the angular momentum along with the lift provided by the differences in pressure that the airfoils create and the air being deflected across the airfoils causing lift and drag cause the boomerang to go into an elliptical orbit. And the reason why it goes from right to left instead of from left to right is because the top wing is moving faster than the bottom wing. And even though they have the same angular velocity, this wing is receiving more air because the velocity is heading this direction. And the same thing would happen once this wing spins around. Because this wing is facing the same direction as the velocity, it's getting more air over the surface, causing it to have more lift than the bottom wing. And this is one of the other reasons, besides the angular momentum and the lift, that causes it to veer to the left instead of veering to the right.
Moving forward with our projects in the future involving boomerangs, what I would want to do differently is probably acquire a drone. Using a drone will allow us to see an aerial view of the boomerang's path along the surface of the ground. And using that, we could better compare the differences in flight paths between these boomerangs that we printed, whether it be just the difference in boomerangs or the difference in our throws or just those. Using that drone would be really helpful.
So some things I wish I could have worked on better was hopefully not with 3D modeling. Practicing throwing the boomerang. Spent a couple hours trying to figure that out for getting the perfect arc in my boomerang and having it come back. It was really cool once I got it to come back, but I guess either putting more practice in or just being better naturally. Wish I could have done that.
Although 3D printing is super cool, I need to finish the molding, sanding, and just finish the entire model. For these boomerangs, they were pretty much ripped straight off of the tray that I got printed on and then experimented with. Moving forward in future projects, if I could get some mold and smooth everything out, sand it down so there's none of these tiny grooves from the 3D printer, then maybe we could produce better results. Overall, the boomerang project me and Stefan did was incredibly fun, and we had success with catching the boomerang. Although it's not recorded on video, Stefan did indeed throw this boomerang and catch it while we were at the park experimenting, but it's not on video. When we allow the students to throw it at the STEM barbecue, they could try to recreate that magic moment that Stefan had. We would also like to thank Dr. Rodrigue for encouraging us to take on this project. When me and Stefan were walking down the hall in DCO, we asked him a question: so how do boomerangs work?
And he came up to us, got us each on the shoulder, and went, figure out yourself on your own time. And then we did it on our own time, so it worked out in the end. So I would like to thank Dr. Rodrigue, my professor for physics, 221, 222, and 223 at Yakima Valley College. I love you, Dr. Rodrigue.
Just horizontal, straight horizontal.